Hey Spookies, I'm Stephen Emond, and this is
Chandra Free.
And together we form Machina Corps! Puma Man music. We have the Puma Man theme, it's also the Machina Corps theme.
It'll be relevant information in just a
Yes,
second.
I'm going to bring up Puma Man a lot in this video. So I had this idea that I wanted to bring up to you about dream projects. And now, this isn't necessarily, my dream project is to do, Emo Boy or, some kind of project that I'm actually working on. This is more like, just like a wish, like something that's just, it's not going to happen for whatever reason, whether it's, you don't have the rights to it, or like the audience is pretty much yourself, like things that for whatever reason it's just not going to happen. But under the exact right circumstances, it would be amazing.
So we're daydreaming.
Daydreaming. So like the thing that kind of made me think of this idea is Mystery Science Theater, which is where this Puma Man thing comes from. So we watch Mystery Science Theater a lot. Like it's pretty much on all night while we're sleeping.
All night, all day.
Yeah.
It's
if there needs to be background noise, it's Mystery Science Theater. And there are certain ones that we watch over and over, like Master Ninja, Puma Man, Werewolf, Wild Rebels, and Mitchell. And I always think, like, I'll jokingly say, like, oh, when Machina Corps does the comic version of this, we're going to have to really expound on this scene here. and it's always kind of a joke, like, oh yeah, we're going to do Puma Man 2, we're going to do the continuing adventures of Mitchell, what happens after this, and he tag teams with the little kid that he yells at.
What happens in season 2 of The Master.
Yeah, so like, there's so many ideas, and I always think like, oh, it'd be great to actually do these comics. Like, I would love to just make a Master Ninja comic, but the audience is so niche. It would have to be not only just Mystery Science Theater fans, but ones that enjoy that particular episode.
Right.
And the rights. I mean, there's a million reasons why it'll never happen. So, like, my best bet is probably just to get the itch out doing some, like, fan art or something like that. But in some ideal world where we suddenly got the rights and produced it and it was massively popular and I could do this ongoing saga of Master Ninja, like, I'd be in heaven. I'd be super happy with that.
Right, you could do the reboot.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so stuff like that is complicated because of licensing and likeness rights and all that, which is a big headache, and especially for something so niche as you were talking about. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But what a great idea. And also this reminds me of the conversations we have about the Mystery Science Theater fighting game that we'd love to do.
Yeah.
Which, the famous duos of Mystery Science Theater, like Troy and Zap Browsdower, Max Keller and the Master, and, all these people, like, going up against each other. Valdino and Tony. And, like, just these weird characters, like Trumpy and the Kid, like, they could all go up against each other. So there's stuff like that. So we were thinking, and this might actually happen, but it's also one of those, do we have the time? But big, like, screens, like versus screens of these characters against each other.
Like the character select screen and just populate it with like 100 people.
Yeah.
And we thought of doing it with like Drag Race and having different drag queens.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of different instances where you could do almost that same character select screen. That would be kind of a fun print to do or something.
It would be really cool. And of course we'd love to do a drag queen comic. I don't know exactly what that entails, but we just love drag queens so much because they're such larger than life characters. They're very colorful. They're very, like, their words painted. Mm-hmm. Just stamped mugs. All I can do is speak and drag. But yeah, these people that are just have these stories and some really like great looks and all that, it could be a really good place to have a comic and really like expand upon their universes.
Yeah, like almost all of the fan art I've done in the past couple of years, if you look at any of my like socials, it's drag queens because they're just fun to draw. They're just colorful and cartoony and like so many ideas and their characters that you can do stuff with, which also like another dream project of mine would be to do like a wrestling comic, because a lot like drag queens, wrestlers are very like almost cartoony, but they're like comic books. They're big like superhero muscular guys, and I just always, I'm a wrestling fan, so I spend a lot of my time thinking about this stuff, and I just always think like it would be really cool to actually make a comic and get to like play with my own storylines. And I think a lot of wrestling fans, which the crossover with comics is, it's deep. There's a lot. Like, Chan didn't know much about wrestling, but like I was like, a lot of the people you follow and know post a lot about wrestling too, and there's a lot of wrestling comics out. Like, it feels like more and more. So I think that a lot of wrestling fans and comic fans get that bug to like, I want to combine the two. I'm not sure exactly why I don't. Sometimes I think maybe there's something there, and maybe there's an audience, maybe there's a bigger audience doing that kind of thing, but I also feel like a lot of people are doing it already, and I'm not quite sure. It's hard when you kind of set out on a certain path and you have certain projects you're working on. It's very hard to say, I'm going to jump over and just do this completely different thing.
This is like a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But you do new characters, your own universe.
I think so, yeah. I mean, if WWE offered me a giant check to sit there and write for their characters and draw their characters, I would absolutely not turn it down unless it was a really bad offer. But honestly, I'm pretty flexible. I think I could make it happen. Of course, there's very little in my oeuvre that suggests this is something people should seek me out for, which is possibly my own fault. But it would be a cool wish project. Like, that'd be a fun thing to do.
Now, something that's high on my list, which I don't think would happen, but, you know, definitely I'm like the person. I would do a Venture Brothers comic.
Yeah.
Might know a couple of people that are in the Venture Brothers world. But I mean, I wouldn't write it. I would not dare to even touch that, but I would draw it.
The coolest thing would be have the actual creators writing stuff,
right.
and you get to like draw it
and
play with that world.
That would be so friggin' cool, because Venture Brothers, I mean, if you're probably peeping a little bit of Venture Brothers over there, but everybody knows me as Venture Brothers person. Like, I live, breathe Venture Brothers after Mystery Science Theater.
But Venture Brothers, Mystery Science Theater, you're a fan of, but it didn't inspire your art the way
that's true.
Venture Brothers did. Like, there's a deep connection there.
There's a super deep connection. When I saw the style, I knew that there was something that was a good connection to what I was doing and what they were doing. So I would definitely do that. I've also, this one I really want to actually make happen, and that's a Venture Brothers cocktail book.
Cool idea.
And if you're a mixologist of any kind, you want to pair up with me, hit me up. But really, I'd love to do the Docktails and the cocktails mentioned in the series. But other than that, I also wanted to do a cocktail book, like either comics and recipes, or recipes based off of this, like something like that. That would be so cool. I have such a love for mixology, especially over the past like the holiday months. I was obsessed with cocktails and making things and all that. I think
Probably going back to our wedding.
Yeah, going back to our wedding.
Figuring out our signature cocktails for our wedding.
I was going nuts, man. But like, I think that would be a really excellent thing to do.
Well, it's a different take on it too. There's a lot of cocktail books out there, but I can't think of any
Comic?
done in a comic format. So Not a bad idea. As wishes go.
Yes.
Well, one of my other wishes, speaking of things that I've never done anything to indicate I'd be interested in, I've been reading a lot of like history of comic books, of Marvel comics. I first got into comic books in like the late 80s, early 90s with all the big artist-driven comics, Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, and I didn't know I wanted to be a writer or a storyteller as a kid, but I knew I wanted to be an artist. And so I was very into not so much the story of these books, no offense, but the art I was very, very into. And when they all came together and formed Image Comics, that was just mind-blowing to me. So there's a part of me that would love to kind of just dive into that retro nostalgia and do something like just 90s action crazy, Image Comics style, like original Image Comic style. And again, most of the art I do is very cartoony and it's very indie. Like I do some fan art sometimes, but like, people wouldn't think, oh, we want to bring back Wildcats, hey, is Steven Emond available? Like, it's not something anybody would think of me for. Therefore, it's kind of this random wish. And it's also something that's part of its time. It's kind of in the past, and not a lot of people are looking for it now the way they were back then. So it's not something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, but it would be a lot of fun. It would be something that I would just love to do. If for some reason I was thrown in that position, I think I would excel at that. I would have fun.
Yeah. Speaking of 80s and 90s retro, I would love to do something with the retro video games.
Yeah, definitely.
Like whether it's some kind of marriage of comics and a walkthrough or a guide or something like that.
Oh, that's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, like something kind of like putting the two together, because I love those little worlds. I love the style from all of those, like, from Zelda to Mick Kids. Of course, I don't know
the
why.
Mick Kids comic coming from Machina Corps, the MC and Mick Kids.
Oh my, the Machina Corps kids.
I just read about I think they were playing Elden Ring for the first time, and they made like an illustrated diary. So every time they like came across a new character, they'd like illustrate part of it and write about it, and it's like, that'd be kind of a cool way to do like a walkthrough, like to play really through cool. A game and actually like illustrate things that are happening.
Sure, and like re-envision like some of these things, because some of this stuff's just pixels. If you don't go from the original like artwork that came in the manuals or anything like that, like you could re-envision an entire world based on these games like Action 52.
Yeah, not Action 52.
I'm kidding. I would not. I would do classics. But there's also that idea of like doing Sonic one day.
Yeah.
IDW.
That would be cool, and I feel like we would be really good as a team on that.
I think so too.
So if IDW got the rights to Sonic, think about it. We'll do a little test sample for you.
Yeah.
The creator, I blank on his name. It's Ian Jones Quarterly, it's something like that. He works on. He did OKKO, the comic and cartoon, and he worked on Steven Universe. But he used to do a comic on Keenspot called RPG World, and it was like basically taking like Final Fantasy VII. And making it just this ongoing web comic. And I remember he'd have like the please insert disc 2 after a storyline and stuff like that. And it was such a good idea. I was so jealous of it. Like, I would just love to have that idea. Like, that would be something super fun. 'Cause I grew up on all those RPGs, Super Nintendo and Nintendo.
I was also jealous of the idea, so much so that I just hated the comic outright. I don't actually hate it, but I didn't read it because I was jealous.
Oh, no, just because of jealousy.
Jealousy.
It happens. People hate me because they're jealous. I understand.
I would hate you too.
You would. We're married.
So, what are your fantasy projects that you would not be able to do whatsoever.
Just
like
pie in the sky. Somebody
Pie in the sky.
randomly said, we're going to give you $100,000. And what's your dream project? Like, it's fun to think about.
Yeah, like-
There's a lot of them.
yeah, just stuff that you couldn't do realistically.
Yeah.
So write down in the comments. Let us know what the heck.
Right. I would love to hear some of your ideas.
And if you're a mixologist, hit me up.
And if you have the rights to Mick Kids, Ronald McDonald, we're looking at you.
I know I don't really want to do Mick.
All right, everybody. Be sure to like and comment as we requested. Subscribe. Hit the ring bell if ring the bell if people do that still. I don't know. I don't ring the bell, but take care, spookies.
Later.